Hi there, my name is Phixfox, and welcome back to Phixfox Shoutcasts. This is the series where you take the time to play FHeroes2. You submit to me your playthroughs, and then I get to watch them, provide commentary, and ultimately I get to hype you up. Today is going to be a playthrough from ArcaneHymn for episode 4, featuring his map that he has created, Aventerra. Of course, the FHeroes2 map editor has come out not too long ago, and ArcaneHymn has done a tremendous job and spent obviously a ton of work on this map that he is going to play for us today. So I'm very, very excited. I'm excited to see what he has cooked up. And from all of the looks that I've had on this map, this is a well-made, well-done map. If you are interested in finding this map or many others like it from the FHeroes2 community, I would recommend that you go onto the Discord and go to the tab listed as maps. You will find a whole bunch of fun, nifty stuff there. In the meantime, let's dive right in. This is, of course, a 4-player map, medium size, and as I mentioned earlier, titled Aventerra. The map difficulty is listed as expert, and the scenario description reads as such. In the cursed jungle of Aventerra lies a sacred isle. 4 different kingdoms set their foot on the mainland around the isle, but only one will win. Alrighty, I like a good little bit of lore in my playthroughs and in my maps. So it looks like this is going to be a 4-person playthrough, and it looks like you can only play as the blue player. Green, red, and yellow, you cannot play as them. We're going to be starting off as the warlocks on impossible difficulty. And very interesting when you consider these maps that are made, knowing that you as the player can only play as one position. That means that there's not necessarily balance. You're not going to load this game up with 4 or 3 of your best friends and everybody has an equal shot at winning. And that can mean that you have some distinct advantages, or that can mean that you have some distinct disadvantages. And what we're going to expect here for this playthrough, I am not quite sure. Looks like we are traveling up the road here with Barak. He's got just a few troops. Of course, the very fast gargoyles do a great job of traveling with their 6 speed. They will be pretty fast for you. And we're going immediately into a boat. There is, of course, this water feature to your immediate right. There is the sawmill and the ore pit not too far away from your starting base. But this very first hero, his whole job was to pick up a little bit of gold along the main road and then hop right into the boat. Of course, if you go into the ocean, into the water, you can find chests, you can find flotsam, you can find lots of things. Sometimes going into the water can be the very, very best thing for you. 4 sulfur, 400 gold from that campfire pickup, and then 2,000 gold or 1,500 experience. We will take the 2,000 gold. That's generally a very good choice on this impossible difficulty type of map. Unfortunately, if we wanted to get another hero for ArcaneHymn, he's going to have to wait for one more day. He has 2,400 gold, and now it's going to be 3,400 gold. Picking up, it looks like it's going to be the power ring from a shipwreck survivor here, +2 to your mana regeneration per day. Not a excellent artifact, but one that can be incredibly useful and make your knowledge and your spell points go much further. Barak, it looks like, is not looking to land. It looks like he is going to be sailing around, picking up whatever he can possibly find here. 3,600 gold. Dawn is going to be on the board for us. I believe that choice was because she's got more troops, and in fact, she has better troops. Having the 4 boars is very, very nifty because, again, early scouting is critically important. Picking up the cave, I kind of missed that until just now. This warlock castle has nothing. That is the very first building that this castle has. The best thing I can say about it is, well, at least it's a castle and not a town. So 500 gold is going to go into that cave, and we need to pause on this. This sign says, "Welcome to Aventerra, brave adventurer. In the heart of the cursed jungle lies a sacred island that could be the key for conquering this land. Following along the road will lead you to an old seer who could give you valuable insights." Okay, I'm interested to see what that is. I'm guessing that it's going to be the Hut of the Magi. Sometimes those Huts of the Magi can let you know about some very key features, some intrigue that the map might have. And knowing that we have some ultimate goal in mind could go a long, long way. Of course, all of our heroes right now have 1 troop each, and so we are completely and totally avoiding fights. Although it looks like there's plenty of resources to pick up. There's plenty of things that we can do. There's some artifacts along the beach there. There's gems, there's wood, there's mercury. Do we land? It looks like not at this time. There is a boat and there is a stone lith not too far. Anytime you see stone liths that close to your main starting castle, there's always a little bit of concern. Am I going to get some aggression that is unseen? Of course, the unseen blade is the deadliest. And if an enemy is waiting on the other side of those lifts to come charging through, you could be in trouble. We're ignoring that shrine of the first circle, and we are instead just getting up the road with Dawn. again, maybe going to that Hut of the Magi. Now, what's the ticket here? 4,600 gold. Are we looking at purchasing another hero? It looks like we are going to potentially get one more hero. 4 heroes on this map. Not a bad choice. Not a bad choice. And of course, the question is, do you intend on having a barbarian as your primary hero? Do you plan on having a warlock as your primary hero? Basically, might versus magic is always a big question. And while magic can go a very, very far away for you, occasionally you're going to say to yourself, if I can get a knight that has a lot of flexibility or a barbarian that will have high attack, I can use that to my advantage in the late game scenario and to clear out the map in an excellent way. You don't have to gamble on mage guild levels to get a damaging spell or something of the likes. It looks like we are going to have Atlas loading up all of these troops, though. I think he's being very cautious to make sure that he doesn't bring troops of 3 alignment into this army. Of course, the negative morale would be disaster in that regard. We still have to purchase a building here. We have 1,600 gold, 20 wood. What is going to be the plan? It's going to be the statue coming out. Always a good choice. Anytime you can get the statue in the first week, you know that you're going to get some additional resource generation going. And as soon as we can take this ore mine, I think that then we can start building towards the dungeon for an extra 500 gold per day on top of that. 7 goblins go down for those skeletons, and we're not going to fight that fight. We're going to look at those losses and say, that looks acceptable to me. Okay, pretty interesting. You know, and some players I've noticed, they do a great job of wanting to fight every single fight. That's where they find a lot of their joy and value in Heroes of Might and Magic. And some people say, you know what? I know that the FHeroes2 AI is going to do a great job in fighting this fight. I don't need to babysit the AI. Maybe ArcaneHymn is in boat number 1. Maybe he's in boat number 2. And maybe he says to himself, look, those losses are about what I would expect, regardless of whether I take the time to fight this fight myself or not. Barak looks like he is pathing towards maybe landing. Meanwhile, Agar is heading to the southwest of the map. We are not picking up, again, these spell shrines. We're dodging monsters, avoiding monsters. Dawn is not taking any experience, so all of the resources that we can get right now are going straight into gold. We do see, by the way, a couple of nifty things there. That windmill is going to be that water wheel is going to be very useful from henceforth. And I do see an artifact to the north that looks to be the ever-flowing vial of mercury. So we have an opportunity to pick up some precious resources in that way. And then we'll see what else we can find out around here. But as far as resource generation, it looks like this is a lot of ore and a lot of wood. And maybe that would indicate that a barbarian or a knight would do particularly well on this map, just knowing that they rely heavily on wood and ore, whereas the other factions tend to rely on some of the other precious resources a little bit more. In this instance, we know that gems are going to be very useful to get the Minotaurs and the Minotaur Kings for the Warlock faction. Atlas still needs to go, and he is looking at this sawmill. Lots of zombies. You do have 24 centaurs, 16 goblins, and then a couple of those gargoyles to boot. A little bit tough maybe to fight that fight with just the centaurs. Centaurs are a great unit for mitigating losses, for bringing down enemies from afar. And yet it depends on the amount of centaurs that you have, whether or not you're going to be able to really save yourself the damage there. Picking up the dungeon early on, excellent choice as well. And so we're going to be getting the base level 1,000 gold from the castle and an additional 500 and an additional 250 gold per day. That's going to be 1,750 gold at this time. Barak is going to land. No more time in the water. Maybe someone else will come later, but that is our only boat at this time. Barak has the boat. Agar picking up the gold. There's a Freeman's Foundry here. I mentioned just a second ago that maybe the Knights would be valuable on this map. That Freeman's Foundry, of course, can upgrade a lot of those Knight troops just in case you're interested in playing this map through yourself. And yet, as the map creator, making sure that he's playing Warlocks, that was a conscious choice, a decision that he made. That Freeman's Foundry does not actually help any of these troops here. So I like that a map maker does that specifically makes opportunities for all different types of factions. And so all different types of factions have strategies that may work for them, even if it's not the faction or the strategy that he necessarily thinks is a great idea. So excellent from a map maker to do that. Picking up a couple of griffins right now. It's day 6. We only have one more day of building purchases, maybe getting another dwelling. I'm not sure what the likelihood of us getting some additional dwellings are. I don't think that Minotaurs are very, very close. And once again, we just auto-combat that fight. The losses look just fine. Were there any losses? I think that was not too big of a battle for that sawmill. Of course, even if there were mutant zombies in that army, mutant zombies are not the scariest thing. It looks like the 24 centaurs did a great job of overwhelming those forces, and we pick up that sawmill. So we do have our ore mine, we do have our sawmill, and Barak is walking through the beach, clearing out whatever he can find there. There is one more bit of treasure in the southwest corner. I am guessing, though, that we are quickly approaching the time where freebies are going to be hard to find. There's 5 gems, though. We talked about maybe gems being useful. I think that this might be one of those things where that's going to help us go a long, long way. This sign indicates to us, you found the home of the old oracle. After getting a valuable insight, the oracle tells you that the sacred island is guarded by magical powers that could only be lifted by getting access to different magical keys. The green key is guarded by the kingdom of water to the north, while the red key is guarded by a local alliance to the east. So green key to the north, red key to the east. Very interesting. And what these keys will do, I'm not too sure. As a map maker, I think that this is a great decision by ArcaneHymn, by the way, to make sure that these event bubbles go into a sign rather than just a spot on the land that you could walk over and maybe miss. Because if you miss some of those map bubbles, you're going to be in trouble. And look at this Heart of the Magi. Holy kittens, folks, the very center of this map is a veritable treasure trove. There is all of the gold generating artifacts. It looks like I see nomads boots and travelers boots there, but there are those border guards that are potentially keeping you from that treasure. And I'm assuming, as far as our lore goes for this map, that that's what he means by the key is to the north and the key is to the east to get through those different barriers. Very interesting, incredibly interesting. Okay, so there's a great treasure in the middle. Sometimes the players can do a better job of leveraging the map than the AI can. The AI will often see something like that and they won't necessarily go for it full tilt. And so perhaps as a player, you're going to have an opportunity to beat some overwhelming forces and still be able to move forward in a good way towards that gold, and use that gold, use those resources, use those opportunities to fend off all 3 enemies. It is unknown at this time. Are the 3 enemies allied, or is this a free-for-all map, you against gold or green, red, and I think it was yellow? If this is a 4 against 1, or rather a 3 against 1 type of map, then you as the player are going to need every single advantage that you can get. This being day 7, we do pick up the gargoyles, and so we are not going to get the minotaurs, but we're going to have the centaurs, gargoyles, and the griffins. That's going to be pretty good for next week's troops, and those troops should be able to help us kind of move forward, I think, in clearing out some of these other adventure map objects. We see things like the +1 for the morale. We see nomads boots guarded by some gargoyles there in the south. I think that's crystal guarded by some master swordsmen. And so even though, again, we don't have many resource generating mines, we do have some opportunities. And now it also looks like we have some area to roam to the northwest and to the southeast. Perhaps it's a land bridge that will take us to other places. And so perhaps you can go by land or by sea to get into these next areas. That'll be pretty interesting to see how ArcaneHymn navigates this map from here on out. And another hero coming out. This is going to be Phineas the Barbarian. What Phineas's job is going to be, it looks like he's going to be another scout, another kind of courier type hero who's going to have just the one single bore, so he can be as fast as possible. And he's going to sit in the castle overnight. Maybe he's going to assist with the resupply. Barak, again, picking up more of these resources. There's a couple of these creatures here on the beach that look to be guarding something, but then again, not really. For example, that Book of the Elements, the skeletons are right next to it, but I think you can just pick up that artifact anyway. I don't think that you actually need to fight skeletons in order to get that artifact. Maybe that was intentional, maybe that was not intentional, I'm not sure. These peasants, for example, we were able to instantly go all the way around them. Traveling by road will save you tons of time. Eventually, you're going to want to defeat them anyway. But for now, it's nice to know that, hey, there's ways you can get around some of the obstacles on this map, but it's going to cost you a little bit of your logistical movement points. I missed that, by the way. I missed that we did not pick up the well in week 1. We did not pick up the well in week 1. Of course, the well is going to give you 2 additional troops of each dwelling type that you have in your castle. And in the event that you lose that opportunity, you can potentially fall behind enemies that do prioritize the well. In fact, I know pretty much everybody that does prioritize the well. it seems like we purchased a building or a dwelling every single day thus far, and yet here we are, maybe a little bit of a sad situation where we say, oh, what could have been? Phineas does meet up with Atlas. Atlas, it looks like, might be the primary hero. Whereas other individuals have gone through these playthroughs, 3 centaurs, 3 goblins, and 1 griffin lost. Are we going to fight this fight? I'm not sure. Whereas other players will sometimes build up multiple heroes to be strong. There's other players that will sometimes have a 1 hero really do their heavy lifting. And it looks like Atlas right now is going to be doing the heavy lifting. Everybody else is taking gold instead of experience. Of course, these nomad boots are going to be fantastic. Your 1 hero, your primary hero, is going to be so fast. So fast. Nomad boots, a tremendous asset to leverage your troops and to move forward, collecting resources, flagging dwellings, and picking up windmills and water wheels. Here being day 1, we still do have 1 water wheel that we need to pick up, and we do see that first windmill over there. There's a pack of royal mummies that were absolutely hidden in the jungle there. I could not see through that section there. Very interesting to note. Was that a purposeful choice? Was that a decision that the map maker ArcaneHymn made when he did this map? Was he trying to hide some creatures in the jungle? And if so, is he that type of player? Is he that type of map maker that's very tricky? Sometimes you can make sure that players have to really be on their guard. They can miss artifacts, they can miss loose resources, and those are things that the computer will not necessarily miss because, hey, they can see the map plain as day. You or I, we might get lost in the trees. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. Are there any additional hidden things? Of course, if you are the player and wanting to make sure that you do not miss some potential map objects, you can always hit V for view all or view world, and then you will get a little bit of a readout, a little bit of a loadout of things that are possible for you to pick up, things like resources, artifacts, etc. Okay, we are sizing up these nomads. We have no spells, but Atlas is still a pretty tough hero. 19 goblins, 1 minotaur, 4 gargoyles, and 4 griffins. Are we going to fight this fight? We don't fight this fight either. We are moving through this map. This is going to be about a 1-hour playthrough on this map, and I'm wondering if maybe that is part of the decision making going into just accepting these losses. Number 1, is this acceptable losses? Yes or no? And then number 2, well, in the interest of time, do I just let the AI do some damage? I think that's what's happening. Atlas picking up that secondary skill there. That was going to be the luck over the diplomacy. Pretty good choice, I think. Ultimately, luck is one of those kind of secondary skills that I tend to really enjoy a whole lot. The combat advantage is always something that is hard to overlook, and diplomacy is always tough to use in the event that you, number 1, don't have enough gold, and number 2, if you are having any kind of problems with maybe finding enough troops to then encourage others to join you. Of course, troops aren't going to want to join you if they think that you're some kind of weak commander. You better have some really good troops if you are going to want to try and get some dragons to join you, if you're going to want to get some titans to join you, or something like that. So ultimately, we've got 5 heroes on the map right now, and we are here to this new, looks like it's a knight faction town as we pick up either the archery or the estates. And how much we're going to plan on building up this new town of Cathcart is unknown to me, although immediately it looks like we are going to be picking up this town and turning it into a castle. That is a huge investment. That is 5,000 gold, that's 20 wood, that's 20 ore, and we have a shipyard already there, and now we have another boat. We had already lamented how maybe Barak was the only person that had a boat and he has landed on the beach. Now we have a second boat. Does Atlas go into the boat or does he stay here? I'm not too sure. There looks to be 2 6th level creatures side by side there to the very middle of the south of the screen. Look at that. Phoenixes and Titans. You can go through that barrier if you want, but you're going to have to defeat not just 1, but 2 amazing, tremendous troops. That's exciting. That's a very exciting development. I'm very thrilled to see that. We do pick up the Mercury, a couple of minor losses there, and it looks like we are ignoring the Master Swordsman. That +1 to the precious resources, apparently not very critical at this time, does not factor into ArcaneHymn's major plans. Perhaps going for that Shrine of the Second Circle, perhaps getting that windmill is more important here. Okay, a lot of troops kind of here in this one little section, and to the north, what we can find up there, I'm not too sure. Again, we have that land bridge kind of to the northwest. Is it going to be a similar situation where maybe you have a town or a castle there and you also have some 6th level creatures that prevent you from going too much up further? I don't know. But knowing that you have boats, if you have shipyards and you can bypass those tremendously scary creatures, you probably ought to. It's only going to cost you 1 or 2 days, and you might as well, I personally think. So let's take a very, very quick pause here, and let's just look at what we have here on the mini-map. So when we're looking here on the mini-map, we see a couple of interesting things. So first and foremost, we do have this section in the middle. And this section in the middle is going to be pretty critically clear. It's going to be a lot of opportunity as far as the gold, but the huge investment, I believe, is going to be coming in when we talk about the issues with the, well, let's call it the border guards and the gates that we might have to run into. That's going to be pretty interesting to see what we have to deal with there. But again, that's there in the very kind of center of the map here. So very center of the map there. That's one thing that we got to contend with. And then we've already noted that down here to the immediate south, we do have this one barrier that is preventing enemies from egressing into us. Knowing that we have 3 other enemies, maybe there's an enemy that starts off here, enemy that starts off here, whoa, here, here, and here. That's kind of what I'm guessing. And I'm guessing that we're going to have some symmetry in the map. Maybe we have just a couple more of these kind of land bridges here and here, maybe here, to go along with this one. That just kind of makes the most sense to me. And then that way, even though this is one of those maps where you can only play as the blue player, there's some symmetry, and that kind of helps you deal with the enemies a little bit better. Maybe it gives them some equal footing. You want enemies that are tough, but you don't want them too tough. And as far as map making goes, symmetry is one of those things that it's not a bad thing. Symmetry is generally pretty good. You can basically do a map one time and then just move on from there with no major issues. Otherwise, aside from those land bridges we've talked about, we also got a few other things to maybe kind of consider and kind of contend with. All of this water here, that's going to be pretty interesting. And I'm imagining that this is going to be something of a lake that goes all the way around. I'm guessing that there's just one big circle worth of water with this treasure goodie map in the very, very center. And so will we push up kind of to the north? Will we push up here to the east? Will we go instead straight on over to the very center and try to get those resources? I don't know. Tough to say, but I'm looking forward to see what ArcaneHymn does as the map designer. It's always very interesting to see what he has in mind for his playthroughs. So we do have, this is Phineas in the water. With his one boar, I don't think that his boars are going to be cast headlong into the sea by those sirens. Still, we kind of go around the circle of the center of this map. And we see more boats that are on the center island, assuming that it is an island, of course. And I'm not sure if that means that there are going to be multiple castles on that center island. I'm not sure if it is already inhabited, maybe by some of the enemies that we have, one of the 3 enemies against us. We have no intel whatsoever on the enemies. And when you are in week 2 already, that's very scary. That's very scary. We have not seen an enemy, what they are doing, what they're up to. It is impossible to say. And if all they've been doing is getting tons of resources, then we are in dire straits potentially, because Warlock faction is going to take a lot of time to build up. We are able to get our Hydras at this point, and still, if they are able to perhaps be some sorceresses or some necromancers that we have to contend with, and they have their 6th level creatures, the bone dragons, the phoenixes, that's going to be very concerning. We do see for the first time some activity. It was just off the edge of the screen. It was like a ghost in the smoke. And we know that there is potentially someone in the water there. Brock may need to be very, very careful in case the enemy wants to fight him. He is in no fighting shape. He just wants to get whatever he can and get out. But of course, anytime you lose a hero, anytime that you have to see one of your champions go down, that's a 2,500 gold investment, not to mention the logistical flexibility. So trying to keep Brock alive, trying to keep Phineas alive. There's one hero on the western side of the channel, and now is Phineas going to run into somebody on the east? I don't know. Otherwise, it's never a bad thing to pay the gold to get the insight, to get the information that you're going to want. Anytime you're able to use a hero to adequately explore the waterways or explore the map, there is some value in that. Of course, there is no way that the enemies are able to make that fog of war reappear, as we do pick up the swamp here in our primary castle, our castle of Night Shadow. That explored terrain will remain explored forever. And what can that do for you? Of course, you're able to see enemies coming long before they get to you. You're able to potentially plan out where to go for some very important resources or some artifacts. So the cost of the information, even if you do lose a hero, is still definitely more worth it than not. We are fighting this fight against these rogues. That's going to be 2 stacks of 9 and 3 stacks of 8. We have our 25 centaurs, 12 goblins, 2 minotaurs, 2 griffins, and the 9 gargoyles. I'm not sure what is different about this fight as compared to some of the other fights, as far as why fight this fight versus the other fights. I'm not too sure, but I'm glad that we are for a couple of reasons. Number one, it looks like the terrain is going to be really nice for us. We're going to have some good opportunities to use the terrain to our advantage, maybe prevent some losses. What to do with the goblins here? We can go into a defensive position around those centaurs, probably a good idea since those top rogues can reach the centaurs next turn. Then again, we also do have centaurs coming up the way, and we don't really care about goblins. Goblins are kind of a throwaway unit at this time. Right now, they are bringing down our morale, number one, and number two, they're level 1 creatures who we are not going to be able to replenish because we don't even have a barbarian type of town or castle. So the likelihood of us getting more of them doesn't really matter. We're going to use them until they're gone, and then they're just exhausted. Looks like we're going again into that fully defensive position. We had thought with the griffins, maybe we go out and attack. I think that was a good decision to go into that purely defensive position. 42 to 85 damage. Potentially 8 rogues are going to go down. We instead kill the 9 to the top. And this is good because, again, we have the terrain now, and we have 2 flying creatures that are able to bypass the terrain in a very effective manner. I guess the only issue is that now the minotaurs are going to have to go out of their way to defeat these rogues, and they could potentially leave some backline access. Then again, when you have the 6-speed gargoyles who are guaranteed to go above the 5-speed rogues, I think that you can attack with impunity and find a way to still be effective with your turns. Not necessarily the way that I would have done it. Then again, it looks like the griffins of the 2 hex creature, they're going to have just as good of an opportunity to kind of shore up that plug that prevents the rogues from attacking the centaurs. Overall, well done. In fact, just because it's not the way that I would have done it doesn't mean it wasn't a very effective way of fighting that fight. 8 goblins do go down. That is completely acceptable losses, and I do believe that ArcaneHymn did just fight that fight much better than the AI would have. Fought the fight better than the AI indicated that they would fight the fight. So it's always nice to fight a fight and realize, hey, I just did better than this FHeroes2 AI that does a tremendous job. We do see red for the first time. Red heroes. Looks like it's going to be a barbarian hero to the southeast. Now, is that just a throwaway hero? Is that a hero that was hired? And are Red's forces, are they going to be barbarians? Or are we going to have to deal with just this lone ranger type of hero? This individual who is streaking through this western or eastern front, trying to get some intel on us. At this time, we do not know. 5 centaurs go down. I think that these are going to be acceptable losses. Interesting choice to try and fight this fight. I'm not too sure what else ArcaneHymn can do. Can he do better than the 5 centaurs lost? But I'm very interested to see what we can expect from that red hero to the south. And 2 weeks in, on these large, extra large maps, you're going to have to just understand that you're not going to have a whole ton of activity early on. You do have some opportunity, unless the map maker has purposefully made some close quarter combat, you're going to have some opportunities to adventure forth, build up your forces, and that suits the warlocks very, very well, in fact. But even so, if the enemy is barbarians, they may look to push tempo, and that might be something that you have to find a way to counteract. We do save 1 centaur on that previous fight. This indicates that it's going to be 1 goblin, 1 gargoyle, 1 griffin. And this is a lot of zombies. This is not a fight that I would be particularly keen on fighting myself. Looks like we're weighing out the steps here. Interesting choice. I'm not sure. I think that the gargoyles, that might be bait. We might be saying to ourselves, look, if we can put some troops to the very far south, maybe the AI will actually try and go for the troops that are closest instead of the troops that we care about the most. Given that these are 2-speed creatures, these zombies are very, very slow, it might be useful to try and get them to go to the south for those gargoyles. It looks like, unfortunately, the zombies are not going to be falling for that. Sometimes if you can have a second target for the zombies to focus in on, that they can reach, say, 1 additional shooter. You break off 1 single centaur and you put them at the bottom, and then you find a way to cover up those 4 hexes around your 2 hex centaur. Then maybe at times the zombies will say, sure, you know what, I will just go all the way around and down. And it looks like we are actually doing something quite similar here. We are using the terrain to our advantage, And will the zombies go straight for us, or will they try and go around? It looks like to a degree the zombies are actually, some of them going south. They are going around this long blockade that we have put in place. Unfortunately, not all of these zombies are going to go for that. We are springing the trap. I love the moxie here. This is not the way I would have fought this fight. I think that conventional wisdom would say, let's pull our forces all the way back and let the 2-speed walking creatures get shot down by our centaurs as they do full damage. And it looks like ArcaneHymn says, no, I don't think I need to do that. The losses looked okay before. I think that we're going to do just fine now. We still haven't lost a single troop. We do lose for the first time 1 gargoyle. And when you have the Minotaurs, when you have the Griffins, when you have these excellent troops, I mean, you can brawl this out. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And perhaps this is exactly what the AI did when they went to fight this fight anyway. So again, good moxie, and I don't think that we need to really worry about any losses here. I think that the losses that we get are going to be very acceptable, and they're going to be quite similar to what the AI indicated that we would have anyway. Minotaurs taking a lot of aggression. It's going to be a lot of hit points you got to get through on those Minotaurs. So not too worried about those creatures. There's still 2 of the goblins left over, and they are going to stay left over. So we actually saved 1 griffin at the cost of 1 additional goblin and 1 additional gargoyle. Not too bad. Not too bad. I think that there's no major problems in keeping a griffin alive. Griffins are an excellent unit, and if you can get a huge stack of them later on, you're going to be feeling pretty okay, because the enemy must deal with them. It looks like Dawn's whole job is to stay on that water wheel until, at least until day 1 of the next week, at which point she's probably going to just hit the space bar and re-engage with that water wheel. The poor owner of the mill is saying to himself, are you going to leave? Hey, I'll give you your gold when you come back, but you can like go and like leave me alone. Every step you take, every little action that poor mill maker takes, he is under intense scrutiny at this time. We do get a good look at the red hero for the first time. This is going to be Martine. Very, very interesting. So Martine is a barbarian with the portrait of a Price of Loyalty expansion hero, one of the individuals that you will find in the campaigns. That's very, very intriguing. This is a hero type of unit. This is not a throwaway unit, and that makes me think that that's probably Red's toughest hero. I don't know at this time if the FHeroes2 map editor allows for you to set specific roles for your heroes. I know that the AI will generally find a way to get 1 primary hero and then couriers and scouts, and the AI will have those heroes act differently depending on what that role is. I'm guessing, though, that the AI is saying, hey, Martine, this is somebody special. This individual is going to be our primary hero. They're probably going to load them up with some really tough troops. What their stats are yet, we do not know. We have not seen an Oracle. We have not seen a Thieves Guild, and that'll be pretty interesting to find out, what we can see if we're able to get to one of those objects. So we got some aggression from Red to the southeast. And we do have some activity. It was on the waterways in the west, and where to go from there, we're not too sure. Looks like there are several of these stone liths that are interconnected. We see 1 more boat, and we see maybe some adventuring opportunities, some gold, some crystal. Yes, Barack and Phineas can high-five each other if they so desire. And this is always a pretty good strategy to hit spacebar a couple of times, just so that way you can see, are there any other places that these liths will go to? If for no other reason, then it's absolutely free scouting, and there is one right there. And so looks like this is going to be actually a very rich type of map. Look at this. We've got a gold mine that is not too far away from this lith here. And there are some other resources, another gold mine. There's 2 gold mines at least, 3 gold mines. I'm guessing that there's 4 gold mines here, just in those corners of the map. There's crystal, but again, I'm guessing that there's at least 1 more gold mine. Just something about that symmetry just kind of screams at me that my brain wants to see a pattern and seek a pattern and fill in the missing information, and that's what I want to fill that in with. Otherwise, if you're on this island in the center and you have those liths, you have to be pretty cautious, because the map gets inherently smaller as you have more liths. And how do I mean? I mean that this may be liths that connect all of this different area from afar, but because you're able to pop into these liths and immediately pop right next to somebody, it inherently will have a cramping effect on the map. You're going to find less individuals or less freedom of movement if there's another enemy over on this island that you need to contend with. And that's especially concerning when you have the two heroes that only have boars and gargoyles. I think that Brock with his scouting just saw a boat. I couldn't see a flag on it, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't a flag there on that boat. Something tells me that just maybe we need to worry about a hero that's just about to land. We did already pick up the Minotaur Kings, and in the primary hero here with Atlas, we did upgrade those 2 Minotaur Kings. We now have 7 Minotaur Kings, 6 of the Hydras, 8 of the Griffins at this time. Looks like we're picking up some more of the Gargoyles and more of the Centaurs. We are taking the Hydras on the road. That is a thing that most people do not want to do. Hydras, of course, are a 2-speed creature, and that makes them comparable to the unupgraded zombie or the peasant or the archer. Some of these troops that you are generally loath to bring on the road with you, or you will look to upgrade as soon as possible. And yet, with 75 hit points, they are an absolute powerhouse. If you can find a way to navigate your armies in battle where the Hydras are the ones taking a bunch of the damage and the punishment from the enemy, that's a very efficient and a very effective way with dealing with some of these lower level troops. This map was listed as an expert. I see in this square right here, we see peasants, we see halflings, we see a couple of these other creatures that are low levels. We have Eldarian, that looks like another Price of Loyalty portrait, not to mention Falagar. And I'm saying to myself, we may want to do something special where in Heroes 2 you can stand on liths, and that effectively makes that lith inoperable. The enemies that try to come through the liths can only go to a lith that is currently unoccupied. If Brock does not move, he cannot have those enemy heroes that just landed follow him. So green player, we've now seen red, we've now seen green. And is green the enemy that is to the northwest? I do not know. Once again, as we suspected, we do see some pretty powerful creatures there on the land bridge. This time, though, is not 2 6th level creatures that were just giving us the basic luck. This time it is the liches and red dragons. So pretty interesting that to the south, you perhaps have a tougher fight than if you want to go to the north. Once again, are we going to build up this castle? It looks like at the very least, we're going to be pumping out boats. So this castle is very important. I suppose that you get the 1 free boat. You get 1 freebie on this map. And that was the boat that Brock took immediately. And then on top of that, if you want more boats, you've got to do some walking, and you have to take at least one of those towns. It looks like there's the 1 town in the snow to the north, and there is the 1 town in the dirt to the east. And if you don't take a town and then use the shipyards that are already pre-built in there, then you're sunk. That is a good way, I think, of finding a way to let the map develop in a natural way. It prevents kind of a rushing strategy. When you're a map maker, of course, you want to make sure that certain strategies you are aware of, even if you are going to allow them or disallow them. At the very least, you want to kind of keep an eye out on what the player might do. And I think that this pacing in this map is pretty interesting, because you're going to make sure that you're not going to allow much of a rushing strategy. This is going to be a map where the more powerful later on types of factions, the warlocks, the wizards, they're going to have a chance, because this is the first time we've really had any opportunity at aggression with these enemies, and here we are in week 3. So 3 weeks is still more or less the mid game and less so the late game, and yet I think that we're potentially getting to the point where we can think about getting those green dragons from the Green Dragons Tower. Very interesting. By now, I would think that a barbarian or a knight would have their cyclopes, they would have their paladins already in hand. We just avoided disaster in 2 instances. So number 1, we have landed with one of our secondary heroes there, and we were immediately followed by Red's heroes, by Martine. They have landed right next to us. We better hope that they don't have pathfinding, but the problem is that they are a barbarian model. I think that you cannot escape from Martine. That blue hero of ours is going to go down pretty quickly, I am sure. And then we did have one enemy hero, the green enemy hero, come through the liths, and they essentially walked right by us. They are not standing on those liths. We can now, I think, hop through the liths and escape for a very brief moment. All of a sudden, this island is getting very, very cramped. Very cramped. I don't think our hero's going to be able to escape there. Is that Atlas? I think that was Atlas right next to Martine. And then this is Phineas that is under duress from Green. Yeah, Atlas is going to be in a little bit of a struggle. This is going to be a problem. It looks like we're trying to go to that southwesternly lift, and we're going to sit right there. Interesting. Interesting. No other further activity. There's a lot of this map that is left unexplored. I'm assuming, I'm hoping, I'm guessing that the other enemies have already kind of taken over their starting area and are going to the center. If you are familiar with Heroes Might and Magic 3, the Horn of the Abyss edition, and the online lobbies that they have there, some of the different templates and some of the different map designs that work very, very well are things that generally have your starting area and then treasure in the center, such as the Jeebus Cross type of maps. It feels like this is reminiscent, at least, of that type of style, where you have your starting area, you conquer what you can, you take what advantages you can find, and then you rush to the very, very center of the map. I think the people who like that style of play are going to do very, very well. Martine does not have the pathfinding. Atlas is able to escape. Atlas must have at least better pathfinding on the beach terrain than Martine does. But now, where do you go? Atlas, where do you go? We just had Phineas go into one of the boats. Maybe Phineas is going to have to come by and pick you up somewhere. But it's going to take one full day to load into a boat and then to sail away to safety. I am a little bit concerned. How are we going to make this work? This army is not massive. The 31 Centaurs, the 15 Gargoyles, the 6 Hydras, the 7 Minotaur Kings, the 8 Griffins. But this is the army you have. And we haven't really looked at maybe getting a green tower yet. And that's very, very concerning. We are looking at picking up this gold mine. I'm excited to see that. And we're looking to get Sulfur. That is a very tactical decision. These troops, as nice as they are, their job may be to get the resources necessary to get you from green to red to black dragons. And if they can do that, mission accomplished, regardless of the losses that you might take, as long as you can save Atlas at the very last second, either have him surrender or have him run away, depart in shame, you're going to keep that hero with the attack skill and the defense and the experience, and that's going to be worth your time. And so that sounds good to me. I think that, by the way, I think that we've seen for the third time a precious resource generating artifact. That we've already seen the Mercury, we've seen, I think it was the crystal to the south, and I think we've just seen the gem pouch right by that other person who was in the water there. I think that's Agar, who was in the water right there to the northwest. And so I think that might be one of the ways that you can potentially encourage some development from your heroes, development from your armies. You can get those artifacts, you can get those mines that will essentially be in your back pocket and follow you until you're good to go. If you have to fight over mines constantly, that can be a little bit of a struggle, and that changes the direction, that changes the strategy that you must take to take and then hold mines. Logistics, what an excellent pickup there, especially for the primary hero Atlas, especially because we've already got the pathfinding. That is a tremendous pickup there. I do wish that we could click on our heroes just to kind of see what the stats are looking like, just to kind of see how we are doing at the moment. I think, again, though, we can plan on pretty much every single hero here being level 1, except for Atlas, who I am anticipating is somewhere in the 5 to 6 level range. Is that better or worse than the green hero and the red heroes that are nearby? I cannot say. We are landing here with Agar. He looks to be in a position where he's not going to be able to do much unless he's going to be going through those elementals with his one single troop. Highly unlikely, but I'm excited to see where that goes. And then Barak, what's Barak thinking? I mean, there's a free artifact there. There's a white pearl with the plus knowledge, plus spell power. It's not really being guarded by the sprites. I think that we've seen that a couple times now, where there's some creatures that are not actually guarding any resources. They're not actually guarding any artifacts, but they're there. They're there. So we're gonna keep an eye on where we go here. So Phineas hopped in the water, and Martine is now in the water. We are being pursued, whether we like it or not. Well, this is one of those times where if the enemy has navigation, you don't plan on it. Nobody plans on an enemy having navigation unless you see a sorceress and say, oh yeah, of course, they start off with that. Otherwise, you just kind of say to yourself, well, I assume that I'm going to sail away and I'm going to be just as fast and far away from you as you are. But alas, that is not always the case. Valagar has wandered right into us. Martine has landed right at our castle faction town on the southern tip. And we also have had one green enemy land right next to Agar. So we are under attack. This is officially it. We are getting attacked. Now, how important is that? Knight faction castle? I don't know. I don't think that we've really upgraded it. I think that we upgraded it from the town to the castle. If for no other reason, then hey, that's an extra 500 gold per day, and that does add up. Otherwise, I think that it's probably bait at this point. Even if there were troops to purchase, I think that you just kind of let them go at this time. Maybe we try and consolidate our forces here on this center island. There is this, it looks like, let's see, 2 towns, one on the southern bit of that lake and one on the northern tip of that lake. That's pretty interesting to me. And then Phineas is potentially harassing Martine. There is that hero. Can you run? I don't think so. There's heroes all around you. Green is just swarming you at this point. Agar, it was a good run. Ultimately, we are going to donate 1 boat to the green cause. But again, this is always just put a positive spin on things. This is paying 2,500 gold so that you can get some more information. Not to mention, Agar has been pretty darn useful. He has helped move some troops. He has helped pick up some loose resources. And as you've heard me say a time or two before, that's just the price of doing business. But again, pressure on the northwest, pressure on the southeast. And then otherwise, it looks like there's no other enemy heroes here on this island. Everybody got in their boats and went away. Atlas has a tremendous opportunity here, I think. I think Atlas has a big chance to do something fun. Now, we do have marketplaces. If you have your marketplace in your Knight faction castle, which we know that we do, then now is probably the best time to trade for all the resources you can, because once you lose that castle, you're going to lose that marketplace, and then you're going to be trading at the clip of 1 marketplace instead of 2. That's a pretty big loss there. So it looks like we are aware that we are about to lose a marketplace, and we're taking this time now to trade all of our precious resources. We are probably not going to be going for levels of Mage Guild at this point. Otherwise, you might consider saving some of those precious resources for a level 2, level 3 Mage Guild. We don't even have a level 1 Mage Guild here in our primary castle. This looks like this is our push to get ourselves the green tower, and we do. So we pick up the green tower. Will we go for the red tower? Will we go beyond that, or do we just need troops right now? Difficult to say. I'm not too sure. But this is the timing of this is about as good as I think that we could have hoped for. Agar does unfortunately abandon our cause. This is going to be 5 bone dragons, 9 power liches. We're not going to get to right click on this sorceress hero, and so that is very unfortunate. One thing that Heroes Might and Magic 3 has is that whenever there's a battle, you see the portraits on the left hand and the right hand side, and that kind of prevents this this unfortunate circumstance where you fought the fight, you lose your hero, but you don't even get the information about what kind of hero you are dealing with. Atlas is still continuing to push in on this center island, picking up more sulfur. That's 2 instances of sulfur that he's picked up. Knowing that we are starting in the bottom left corner, and knowing that we are getting those 2 mines that are closest to us, and they're both sulfur, that bodes pretty well. If they were 1 sulfur, 1 gem, that could maybe indicate that, okay, if you're going to go for your Titans, you could maybe go for that because gems would be close by. But look at this. There's gold mine. There's a gold mine. There's sulfur. And then there's sulfur. And that's all the mines that are closest to you. And proximity does matter. That means that there's less enemies that you potentially have to fight your way through. That means that you have a higher likelihood of getting to those resources sooner rather than later, and that can help you with your timing on your builds. So this map might be more geared towards warlocks than anything, just for that one purpose. Not to mention, you see the crystal mine over there, kind of to the southeast of the little lake. Crystal southeast, crystal to the northeast, northwest. Overall, those might be a little bit hard for the barbarians and the knights to get to, again, because of proximity. And of course, that's a little bit difficult because those are the barbarians and the knight faction's primary precious resource that they need for their cyclopes and their paladins, crusaders, excuse me. So interesting kind of little nuggets of wisdom here for this map. I missed something. You know what I just realized? I missed something. Where is yellow? Now, we know that yellow is here because we've seen 1 mercury lab, 1 alchemist lab there that is flagged on that island. Yellow has landed on that island at some point, and I completely buried that lead. I completely missed that. I feel like I'm paying good attention, and yet somehow I don't know when or where yellow landed on this island to take that mercury. That's very interesting. We do have, by the way, a second set of lifts here in the swamp area of this island. That's pretty interesting to note. Because again, makes the map smaller, but also perhaps will favor some barbarians who can make good use of that additional flexibility in the movement and the logistics. There's a pack of titans there, I believe, that are guarding just the pass between the south to the north there on that eastern half of the swampy land. We do see Ector. He's picked up a couple of genies. That looks to be the toughest troop that he's picked up. Everybody else is low level, first, second, and third level creatures, I believe. But maybe if you're looking at playing this map yourself, as we pick up our black tower, yes, and we have our black dragons ready for us. As we pick up those, maybe we think to ourselves, you know, a barbarian hero is going to be probably the best thing you can get on this map. As your primary hero, looking again at this beach, again looking at the swamp in the center, looking at the snow to the north, pathfinding does certainly matter. In the future, I believe that the FHeroes2 map editor, they have plans that they will allow you to edit the details on a specific witch's hut, and you can determine every single map what secondary skill that witch's hut will offer. That's something that is unable to do at this time with the old map editor that you would find with like Heroes 2 Gold and things like that. You just have to plop down the witch's hut, and then from map to map you have a lot of variance because it's hard for you to figure out what secondary skill you are going to get, what secondary skill you could get. And a witch's hut with pathfinding, of course, would negate the need to have a barbarian from playthrough to playthrough. Here, it might be important just to know that right now we don't have that functionality. Barbarian hero as your primary hero may be the excellent thing to do. It may be the very, very best thing. In the future, it may be that you have one single witch's hut somewhere on a map maker's island, and they can ensure that you're going to get a secondary skill that will eliminate that requirement, perhaps, to have one of those heroes. We do see a sorceress castle here in a desert land, a sorceress and a knight faction castle on the far east of the map. That's very interesting. It looks like those were probably not their starting castles. I'm guessing that those were, in the interest of symmetry, two towns that have been captured and then upgraded to their castle version. We do have Martine, who has landed back in the very center of the island. They are in hot pursuit of Atlas. Again, Atlas does not have those black dragons with him. Martine looks pretty tough. Martine thinks that they can beat us. Something tells me we should at least consider that that's a distinct possibility. We're picking up the scouting instead of the ballistics. We hop into the stone liths, and we are safe for the time being. We do also note have a lot of aggression still from red to our southeasternly border. They are coming through the dirt area, and if they are not there yet, they are sure looking like they are getting closer and closer. Those black dragons, their metal may be tested in short order. Looks like Barak is stepping on the lith. Is he going to just stand on the lith and prevent Martine from coming through? I think so. I think that's a great strategy, an excellent strategy. I'm all for it. Ector is in hot pursuit. Again, genies, rocks, boars, a couple of these other troops. I'm amazed that there's still flotsam out here to be found, and sea chests. Note that the AI for Heroes 2 Gold used to be omniscient, and it would know if the sea chests were going to be empty or full, and that might have played into their decision-making process on whether or not those adventure map objects would be taken or not. That is not the case with FHeroes 2. In FHeroes 2, that has been eliminated, that certain level of omniscience from the AI. So that is less about the AI knowing that that was going to be a dud, and more about the AI knowing that, hey, I just don't need wood or gold at this time. Okay, we do lose one enemy hero, of course, or one of our personal heroes. If you have some hero in a boat by the coast, the enemy can attack you from land, and that's what we just saw there. And we also have, again, red pushing into our main area. I don't know what that red hero is. Of course, Martine, I believe, is the power for red, but they can always have a strong secondary hero, and that might be something very, very concerning. We lose 2 griffins as we get the advanced logistics, and we take this +3 for the divine breastplate of protection. But also, we now have a red hero who is threatening our primary castle. They are, I believe, 1 day's journey away from us. I am pretty scared about that. We've got to get black dragons on our primary hero. And of all the castles that you might want to trade or potentially, forego for some time, I don't think that a castle that has black dragons is on the table. You might even give up, say, a sorceress castle that has the red tower for phoenixes. Sometimes tactically that might be the best decision. I don't think it's ever the best decision to give up a castle that has black dragons in it. I think that we got to figure out what we got to do to defend this castle. We haven't even right-clicked on those heroes, I don't believe, to the south there. There, for the first time, is Crota. Crota is just out of range, and there's no way that he can defeat us. He's got peasants, he's got gargoyles, he's got nothing. He's got nothing, but he does have scouting. Something tells me that from his position there, he can probably see our main forces there. Kilburn is ready to pounce, ready to strike, and Crota sees that, and Crota takes off. Good decision there. I'm guessing that Barak is going to go back through those lifts unless we fight. This is going to be a glorious victory according to the AI. We're going to accept this. Looks like we get the endless bag of gold for 750. Major scroll of knowledge +3 on the knowledge, plus the speculum. Not to mention we get that power ring back for the +2 to our spell points every single day. But again, heavy losses. We do have the 3 hydras now. Remember though, even if we lose all of these forces, we're okay. For what reason? We've got the sulfur. The sulfur is going to go a long, long way for us. Do we push into the enemy here? That's a question. Does Kilburn attempt with these 4 black dragons to mix this up? I think that even though Lord Kilburn is a level 1 hero, he's got a strong enough army that he can take these castles, he can defeat these heroes, and if Martine wants to press into him and want to fight, I think that Lord Kilburn can do that. That shouldn't be a big problem. Atlas, though. Tell you what, we've got a little bit of a problem. Hydras, as a 2-speed creature, if they fight these titans, if you fight these titans with hydras, you're gonna lose, dude. You can't stop this. You can't stop this. Titans are gonna go first. They're gonna unload on you. You just lose Atlas for nothing. Oh no, disaster. Oh no. Oh, and I'm sick to my stomach. Oh goodness. So I am sorry to see, and it looks like that's the end of the playthrough. I'm sorry to see that that's where it ends. Oh, disaster. Wow. Absolute devastation there. What a way to end that scenario, because of course with the 2-speed hydras, you are not able to get the opportunity even to run against titans. I'm guessing this is what I think was happening. I think that what it was it was a calculation. The hydras are worth 800 gold apiece. That's 2,400 gold that you're going to lose, plus the cost of the hero themselves to rehire. You can potentially do what's known as a poor man's town portal. You can attack some neutral creatures, you can run away from them, and then you can rehire that powerful hero back at a more strategic location. I think that that's what we were thinking about. I don't think that Atlas was actually planning on defeating all those titans. I don't think that that was a thing. I think that was a miscalculation as far as the speed goes. And again, that breaks my heart. So that is the end of that run. Let's do just a very, very quick evaluation, though, of everything leading up to that point. Number 1, excellent job, I think, from ArcaneHymn in playing this kind of cat and mouse game of ducking in and out of those lifts, of still getting very much value, a lot of good value out of their heroes to pick up loose resources, to pick up mines and things of that nature, and to more or less distract the enemy. Anytime that the enemy is trying to fight you and they are the more powerful force, if you can waste their time, that's not time wasted for you. That buys you time so that you can get some other developments, whether it's black dragons in this case, or whether it's some additional sulfur that you're going to need, or maybe give your main hero some time to go pick up a town or a castle or something like that. Time is valuable, and the longer a map goes, the better things will go for you when you are the little dog, when you are the underdog, I do believe. Also, that's number 1. Great job of ducking and diving and things like that. Number 2, I think that was a good job in the early game of utilizing multiple heroes. I think I like the idea of having Dawn be the hero whose whole point and purpose is to stand on that water wheel. It's time wasted. It's a hero that's wasted, but she more or less pays for herself in 3 turns or in 3 weeks. So making sure you have a hero that's kind of dedicated to those local adventure map logistics is always important. I think that I would have liked to have seen more activity from Dawn, maybe potentially filling the role that Lord Kilburn filled. There comes a point where the flexibility and saving the 2,500 gold might be a little bit more important. But I like the dedication to that opportunity. 1,000 gold a week is not something to sneeze at. And then I think great job of utilizing the boats. And again, if you recall, we started off in that boat at the very, very beginning. We got there on day 2. And I think that's an excellent choice for anyone to get into the water and kind of get some extra stuff. So those are my thoughts on this map and kind of how it went. I think we can all see that if we didn't have, again, disaster right there, I think that with the Black Dragons, knowing that Red's and Green's toughest heroes were not overly forceful in their troop composition, I think that you could potentially roll right into Red. We did see 5 Bone Dragons on Green's hero. I would probably go straight for Red, and then I would probably circle back and then try and fight Green. That would be my hope. But then again, Green could have always come south and then just forced the issue. Tough to say. And unfortunately, we're not going to know. But ArcaneHymn, good playthrough. And I really have a lot of intrigue with this map that you have made. And I hope that this is, number one, a showcase for you on your skills and talents as a Heroes of Might and Magic 2 player, and also your ability as a map maker. Again, if you, as the viewer, are interested in seeing this map and playing this yourself, go to the FHeroes2 Discord. I will put the link in the description, and you can go to the map making section and you can download this map that is, again, part of the community's creation. So thrilled for that opportunity. I'm glad that the map editor is working and things are going very, very well. If you're interested in submitting maps, that's also a place that you can do that on the FHeroes2 Discord. I'll leave that with you there. But folks, my name is Phixfox. Thank you so much for the time. And thank you again for these Phixfox Shoutcasts videos. I think that these are successful. I appreciate everybody's submissions so far. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. We got a couple in the tank, and I just want to keep them going. So you're not going to hurt my feelings if I get 25 emails a day. I'll take every single one of them. Folks, my name is Phixfox. Thanks for the time. Look after you. Look after your friends. Look after your family. Until next time, catch you around.